Hi, everyone. It's Michelle Laumb-Michels, and I wanted to talk about situational leadership theory as well as how to give effective feedback. And so I thought it would be fun to tie that in with the new Barbie movie that came out last year, 2023, starring Margot Robbie, and to explain exactly what situational leadership is, how it applies to you in the workplace, and if you're a leader, how to give effective feedback based on the stage that your follower, your employee, subordinate might be in. So let's get started. All right. So the first of four leadership myths I wanted to talk about was that leadership is just a professional journey. And that is not true at all. Leadership is a professional journey. Yes, it is also a personal journey. And so, how is a personal journey tied into any leadership position that you have? Well, you're going to put yourself out there. You're going to try to influence others with your ideas. And it really, whether you influence or you don't have influence, a kind of rejection you may feel, or the opinion on your various ideas can be really personal. And so learning confidence, that's a personal thing. Learning how to communicate more effectively is personal. And so the myth is I'm going to take this leadership position, or I'm going to become a leader in my company, hoping to influence people in my company or whatever it may be. And you find out it's a lot harder than you think. And that is just like Barbie experience when she entered the real world, right? So she started off as a very naive, shy, not so confident leader because she didn't really know the atmosphere in which she was getting involved in, or the task that she was really having to do at that point. And so watching her throughout this movie become a more confident and inspiring leader is what situational leadership is about. Diagnosing the various stage where somebody's at, what do they need, what kind of leadership do they need, and then what kind of feedback is effective for that person. So situational leadership, let's talk about that. Situational leadership is something that was invented in 1969 by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard. And it is really about adapting your leadership style based on where somebody that you're trying to help move forward and grow is at. And a lot of people, when you tell them leadership has to really be flexible, they don't like that. People say, I want to be the leader and it's my leadership style I'm going to use. Well, that's great, but that leadership style is only going to be effective in certain circumstances. And so what this theory says is that there are multiple stages that your employees can be at. And so you have to know what kind of leader you need to be to that person based off of how competent they are, how committed they are. And so you're going to diagnose your employees in terms of their readiness based on these four categories. So you see on the horizontal axis, you have the task, behavior, the directive. How much do they need? How much direction do they need from you? Communication in what they're supposed to do and how they're doing it. And then on the Y, the vertical axis, you have how much support you need to offer that person based off of their competence and their commitment. Okay, so we're going to start actually in the lower right-hand side of the bell curve. It kind of looks like that might be the last, but it's actually in this model, it's the first place that you start. So what is the category of S1? S1 is an overeager beginner. So they're highly committed, like Barbie was. I'm going to the real world. I'm going to find out who's sad, who's playing with me, and I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to, fix the tear in the continuum. And back in, I'm going to take the portal back to Barbie Land. Everything's going to be fine, right? So very naive. She was misunderstood when she first got there. Those are kind of symptoms of a person in the S1 category. Okay, so they're starting a new task, role, or project. they're excited, they're overconfident, they're really committed, but they're not competent. And so in this S1 category is where they need a lot of, you don't want to say hand holding per se, but a lot of direction and a lot of communication about, okay, here's the big picture. Here's how you fit into that. Here's what you need to do. Let me break it down, because you do not want your new employees to feel confused. Okay. That's going to cause employees to disengage either at that point or later on in the company, later on in their time at your company. So you want to make sure that they're fully supported right from the beginning, that they get off on the right foot. And so a lot of communication about what's expected, what you want to see, and how to do a good job at what you're asking them to do. Okay. So when Barbie gets into the real world, she's, like I said, overconfident, very excited, but not too competent. And so you'll see where she made a lot of mistakes in a professional and a personal way. So she had the construction workers, which she thought, oh, if I can just find some construction workers at the lunch hour, then I'll get some female energy, some female vibes, and I'll be able to get things started right. Where in fact she found all of the construction workers were men. That's embarrassing. She definitely felt a sense of rejection. So she has to go home and deal with that personally at the end of the day. When she realizes that Barbie actually has not been helpful for the cause of women in the real world, she takes that personally, right? She feels, wow, we're so misunderstood. I'm so misunderstood. I wanted to help, and here that's not the case. Okay, so she's just entering into this new task, this new leadership role. And kind of along that same lines, that to find out that Barbie actually has not been empowering to women, it just gives her a sense of being overwhelmed at how much she didn't know, how backwards she thought it was. And so if you are Barbie's leader in this S1 category, okay, she is going to need a lot of telling. Okay, so here's what you need to do. This is kind of the next step. Why don't I check in with you after you rollerblade down the beach and get some new clothes? Why don't you, when you go into Mattel and you talk to the executives, why don't I check in with you after that, see how things are going? Definitely ask about the women, whether or not they have any, how many they've had. And so you know kind of what to expect, and you're guiding them along the way, and then offering that support on the backside of the task. And so really building a lot of trust and building a partnership is what you need to do in this particular stage. Unfortunately, Barbie doesn't have any leaders going into the real world, and that is very difficult for her. She has to, like many leaders, she has to figure it out on her own by making mistakes. She has to figure out what is working, what isn't working. I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to do it differently in the next situation, in the next situation. And that personal journey tends to involve, at least for us females, a lot of tears. And so it's hard to start out when you are leading any different group of people and really finding that inner voice and that confidence, which it's really hard to have if you don't know what you're doing. But the only thing you can do is continue to go forward every day. People can see that it's hard. What people want to see is that you're going to keep at it, and that you're going to keep trying, and eventually you're going to silence your critics. Eventually you're going to silence the people that come against your ideas, because you're going to go stronger, and you're going to go longer, and you're going to develop better relationships than those people have who are your naysayers. All right, so feedback for anybody that is in the beginning stages of something. So if you're a leader, the research shows that People who are new at a task, whether they're young or old, they just want to know what they're doing right. Okay. So they need that confidence, and they need that feedback from you on what they're doing right, not what they're doing wrong, unless it's critical that you tell them. You'll want to be really selective about the feedback and the comments that you give, so that they're feeling like they can move forward. They're doing enough right that they can move forward. So you have to know that there will be a time for more critical feedback. People actually want that. The better they get at something, somebody is an expert in an area, they want, research shows anyway, young and old, people want real feedback. I already feel good about what I'm doing. I just want to know where I need to improve, what still needs to be tweaked, changed, modified, made better. But that is not at all the case when someone is beginning something new. So don't be overly critical, be really positive, looking for what they're doing right so that they, excuse me, can continue to build on that. So what we've talked about today in leadership myth number 1 is that leadership is both a professional journey, it is a personal journey. And when you're starting out, both for yourself and as a leader, when you're starting out in something that is new, make sure there's a lot of direction, explanation, communication. If you're in that position and you're not getting that, something is new, you're going to need to ask for it. Okay. So again and again, as long as you're being resourceful on your own. But if you do not know and other people do not know, just keep after people who may be short on time so that you get enough information. You don't need more than enough. You need enough information to do the job that you are expected to do well. And so that's your little confidence booster for today. So I will be back with the leadership myth number 1, part 2. We're going to talk about category S2 and what that looks like when Barbie has spent a little time in the real world and how she's learned some big lessons on leadership.